Liberal leader Mark Carney stepped away from the campaign trail today and returned to his role as Prime Minister to address Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs. Carney outlining his plan for Canada's short and long-term response to a U.S. policy shift he says will rupture the global economy. Ashley Burke has more.
The day after Donald Trump hit virtually every country in the world with tariffs, the Prime Minister warning Trump's ruptured the global economy, torpedoing its growth.
The President's actions will reverberate here in Canada and across the world.
Mark Carney calling Trump's tariffs unjustified, unwarranted, and misguided as he strikes back.
We must respond with both purpose and force. We are a free, sovereign, and ambitious country.
The government hitting the U.S. with tariffs on American vehicles non-compliant with their trade deal, matching what Trump slapped on Canada's auto sector overnight.
These auto companies aren't making money hand over fist. They're basically trying to get by day by day and keep their people employed. So our goal is to continue negotiating down to a 0%.
Automaker Stellantis already halting production at a plant in Ontario in response to Trump. News that hit the campaign trail.
This is a direct attack on these workers. And for the workers that I met at Stellantis, they woke up to an announcement now that their plant has been shut down for 2 weeks. Can I touch it? Yes.
The Conservatives seizing on the auto tariffs to take aim at Carney for not stopping it.
Just last Friday, Mark Carney said he had a, quote, very productive, very constructive call with President Trump, citing progress. Unfortunately, Canada has not been spared. There is no progress.
Carney pushing back, saying Canada was spared new tariffs yesterday, while 3 rounds already announced remain in place.
We have the best deal of a series of tough deals, bad deals in many respects. That is progress.
Carney said he doesn't think Trump will change course unless Americans feel so much financial pain that it's impossible to ignore. He says that could be a hard and long road for Canadians and is headed back on the campaign trail to try and pitch himself as the one to lead Canada out of this trade war. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
You heard a little bit from Doug Ford there reacting to the hit to the auto sector. A Queen's Park reporter Sean Jeffords has more on the Premier's support of retaliatory tariffs against the U.S.
You know, we all agreed that we got the best of a bad deal, which in my opinion is still totally unacceptable. The only thing that's acceptable is 0 tariffs.
The candid assessment of Trump's latest tariff plan from Canada's premiers. Doug Ford making the statement after huddling with Prime Minister Mark Carney and the rest of Canada's first ministers. And a round of retaliatory tariffs have been levied against the United States. But that's cold comfort to about 4,500 workers at Stellantis' Windsor auto plant, who are already laid off temporarily. Ford says both his government and Carney's will help the auto sector.
But I can tell you, he reassured us that he'll be there for the auto companies to support them. We'll be there as well.
Canada appears to have been spared the reciprocal tariffs applied in Trump's plan. But an apparent 12.5% auto sector tariff came into effect overnight, prompting the Stellantis announcement. Ford had predicted that if the taxes were imposed, it would shutter auto plants on both sides of the border. And that came to pass, with 900 American workers also affected by the Stellantis shutdown.
I thought it would last about a week, but obviously it's right down to days now on the supply chain. And I've been saying this over and over again, a tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. I mentioned Termination Day. There's a perfect example.
On CBC's Metro Morning, the head of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association says he's still not clear what the tariff rate is. But regardless of its level, the impact will be profound.
Yes, I said the industry is going to shut down. And within 12 hours, we see one of the most important plants in this country that's been around for 99 years go on a 2-week break. That's not normal.
The leader of the official opposition at Queen's Park says that Stellantis news highlights how the province needs to begin the hard work of finding new trading partners and be there for workers already affected by Trump's tariffs.
And so I think it is more important than ever that we are thinking about the future not just protecting workers now, but protecting workers in the future in Ontario. Ontario cannot be in a position of just simply fighting for scraps that fall off the edge of Donald Trump's table.
Ford says he'll continue to meet with politicians south of the border to make Ontario's case. And he's hopeful that once American workers begin to feel the pain of the tariffs, they'll ramp up pressure on U.S. President Donald Trump to remove them. Sean Jefford, CBC News, Toronto.
Emergency workers in Peel had to help several people escape rising waters this morning. At least 3 cars were partially submerged along the Brampton-Mississauga border.
The storm surge isn't drained by gravity, so we do actually have pumps that drain out those low points. Looks like that pump wasn't working overnight at that Torbram location, so our crews came in and actually had manual pumps, or mobile pumps, I should say, and drained the roadway.
Brampton's fire chief says emergency personnel also attended an overnight rescue in a park, rescuing a man who became surrounded by rising floodwaters. The flooding also impacted parts of Toronto, including Highway 427 and Rexdale and Bayview by the Don Valley. Now, residents in Rockcliffe-Smythe, one of Toronto's most flood-prone neighborhoods, say they're fed up. They formed a coalition earlier this year to push the city to do more to help homeowners deal with recurrent flooding issues. The latest instance happening after yesterday's deluge of rain and wet snow. Tyler Cheese spoke to residents about their frustrations.
Flood alarms started going off at around 2 a.m. And then the home security that I pay for monthly called to make sure that we got the alarm, because that means that the basement is filling with sewage water backing up from the city pipes.
This homeowner says she went to work cleaning up the water in her basement and dumping it outside. And it's not the first time this has happened to her.
This has happened numerous times to me since I bought in 2021, and it happened to the previous owners, and it happens to neighbors.
The neighborhood was hit hard by 2 big summer storms last year, but residents say it's been going on much longer.
I made my first complaint to the city of York in 1984. That was the first flood. And ever since, maybe 2 times, 3 times, it's been on a regular basis. The basement has been flooded.
The neighborhood is in close proximity to Black Creek and is on a floodplain. In 2022, the city established the Rockcliffe No-Fault Grant for basement flooding damages. It's a program meant to provide homeowners in the neighborhood with up to $7,500 per storm to cover the flood damage.
No one I've spoken to has been able to secure that money. I've had neighbors in tears who have lived here for years, thinking this $7,500 grant would finally be something. And they're in tears telling me about the fact that they're being asked for receipts that they can't prove. They can't prove that the work was done.
The city was not able to provide a comment on the most recent flooding incident before deadline, but a city webpage details a 3-phase plan with several infrastructure projects aimed at reducing flooding in the area. The timeline of the plan has not been finalized. After last summer's major storms, the federal government also announced funding to support the city's plans.
We have seen an increasing frequency and severity of flooding, particularly across the GTA.
While the problem is particularly bad in Rockcliffe, experts say the issue is citywide.
Last year alone, we saw multiple events. In July, we saw $990 million of insured losses in the GTA. And that was followed in August by another $110 million.
As for the coalition of neighbors, they're calling for easier access to the funding grant and say they want the city to follow through on promises made in the past. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Meanwhile, in some other regions of the province north of Toronto, it's now been almost a week without power for some residents following this past weekend's ice storm. And for those in hard-to-reach areas, the power might not come back until next week. Our Dale Manukduk went to Kawartha Lakes to see how people are coping.
We get an update on the outages. Good news in Coboconk, a community in Kawartha Lakes of about 800 people. Generators are back in stock at the local hardware store, the sign putting into perspective just how challenging last weekend's ice storm was.
Bombs going off, just one after another, and we're just hoping that nothing hit your house.
Not far on this dead-end dirt road, which took 2 days to clear after trees came tumbling down, lives Jack Pierce. He's still without power, getting by with a whole house generator. Hydro One has called this the worst storm in nearly 30 years.
I was here at that 1998, but that was in the summertime, and it was a completely different time because the cottagers were here and everybody was able to pitch in and help. This year, nobody's here. I'm by myself.
Power restoration for him could take a few more days, others in more remote areas even longer.
We've restored power to approximately 83% of those affected.
Hydro One has restored power to nearly 1 million customers. Wednesday's storm caused an additional 30,000 outages. South of Copaconk in downtown Lindsay, things are mostly back up and running. Though piled up on the lawns are mountains of branches and debris, which the mayor says the municipality will pick up eventually. He's also got another message for weekend warriors looking to escape to cottage country.
Please, for the time being, for this weekend anyway, please don't come up and crowd the roads, because we need Hydro and our public works people to be able to clear them.
It's an all-hands-on-deck effort, says Hydro One. They've called in help from 18 other companies to assist. Jill Dunlop, Ontario's Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response, says she's been in constant contact with impacted communities. One agency pitching in is Global Medic, supplying generators to critical infrastructure and elsewhere.
We plug those into pumping stations, nursing homes, shelters, food banks, to keep the freezers going, right? So just protecting any type of critical infrastructure.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Kawartha Lakes.
SickKids Hospital is marking its 150th anniversary today, with former and current patients, families and staff coming together to celebrate the occasion. Nama Weingarten was there and has more on what this milestone means for the hospital.
With balloons in the hospital's signature blue and cheers from those whose lives were changed, SickKids is turning 150.
I just can't believe that they're 150 years old. It also makes me really comfortable because I know they have 150 years of experience now too. It's really fun thinking about how long they've been here for and how many kids they probably have saved.
It all started in 1875 when a group of Toronto women rented an 11-room house downtown for, believe it or not, $320 a year. They declared it as a hospital to treat sick children, regardless of whether they could pay. That group of women was led by Elizabeth McMaster. Mary Jane Leonard is her great-granddaughter.
We feel really a lot of pride that she started something and other people have continued to make it a priority and to continue her work.
Happy birthday, SickKids! The mayor and other elected officials also made an appearance. But the day was really all about the kids the hospital saved.
I just think the experience here is always the best because the staff here are always kind and amazing. They always comfort me and they make me feel special.
And the kids, who aren't kids anymore.
I grew up here. I got a sense of perspective. I learned about positivity here and turned those lessons into the job I have today. SickKids not only saved my life, but it changed my life.
Over the past 150 years, staff at the hospital invented pablum, performed the world's first cardiac surgery in utero, and opened North America's first pediatric multi-organ transplant program. Their CEO says in their next chapter, they're now working on more personalized care.
We look all the way from the genetic code to the postal code, combine all these data that will allow us to provide individualized care where treatment is smarter, we are going to diagnose faster, and we're going to predict better.
And the celebrations aren't over just yet. A little later on Thursday at dusk, they'll be lighting a balloon installation, and the CN Tower, Rogers Center, and Niagara Falls will all be lit up in blue to celebrate the occasion. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
Our Toronto Maple Leafs are officially playoff contenders after a big win at home last night.
Shot up, traffic storm!
Mitch Marner getting the go-ahead goal midway through the third period to propel the Leafs to a 3-2 win against the Florida Panthers. This is the 9th straight season the Leafs will have made the playoffs. Welcome back. Former patients of a Toronto gynecologist are continuing to come forward after CBC broke the story of thousands of patients potentially being exposed to blood-borne infections at her office. Many reached out to us with their own negative experiences with the doctor. Some of them were new to Canada and said not knowing the language or the medical system made it harder for them to complain. Tali Ricci has more on why advocates say this is a wider issue.
Claudia Gomez had just moved to Canada from Colombia when she had a traumatic experience with a gynecologist. She said she went in for a pap test and was instead given a biopsy with no warning.
I was by myself. I didn't have any path to protect myself. I started bleeding, and she said maybe I could be having pain for some days.
Gomez was a patient of Dr. Esther Park and one of dozens of women who contacted CBC Toronto after we reported the doctor was under investigation for improper cleaning practices. Toronto Public Health says around 2,500 patients may have been exposed to hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV at Park's clinic. Like Gomez, many of the patients recently immigrated to Canada.
I didn't know the system, and I didn't know in my country it's difficult to access to a specialist. So we have to, look for someone, go through a long process. And I say, okay, if I'm here, so if I ask for a change or whatever, it's gonna take forever. And I was in a difficulty, with my health. So, and I didn't know how to do it. And my English now is not great, but at that time, oh my goodness, it was very bad. And then I felt like hopeless. Put me in
Gomez said she ended up going to a nearby nonprofit that provides immigration and settlement support for help. At the time, she didn't know about the College of Physicians and Surgeons as an avenue to file a complaint.
I mean, at the best of times, people are very reticent to complain about their doctors. Very reticent. They're afraid to do it. There's a big power imbalance that's compounded as people are new Canadians. I would say the vast majority of people have no idea where to go, what to do. And if English is a second language, then the language barriers, can make access even worse.
The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario is also investigating Dr. Park. Her license is listed as restricted on the college's website. In a statement, the CPSO says it aims to provide the public with access to services and support in the language of their choice. Patients calling the college can connect with an interpreter in one of 240 languages, ensuring any questions or concerns are accurately presented.
I would always encourage people to make a complaint to the college. The college investigates, so they do an investigation, and that's important because if there really is a problem, that's really the only accountability.
It's not just about giving individuals the power to complain, but also creating proactive measures to make sure that whether it's bosses or service providers or healthcare workers or landlords, that they are the ones receiving the education. They are the ones that are being informed about the potential consequences coming down from their disciplines in the departments and the provincial government in particular.
CBC News has made multiple attempts to contact the clinic, but we haven't received any responses. The office's answering machine states that Dr. Park is retiring and that the clinic will be closing in April. Meanwhile, Toronto Public Health says there are no updates to the investigation and no confirmed infections related to the practice. It says it will continue to receive lab results and follow up as necessary. Gomez now works in healthcare as an occupational therapist. Looking back, she wishes she spoke up.
At one point, I feel like giving up, and I did it. I just want to stay with the illness, and that's it, and to see what's happened, because I didn't want to go back and as an OT here.
Gomez hopes that sharing her story will encourage more patients, especially women new to Canada, to file a complaint or say something if they don't feel their health is in the right hands. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette joins us now with a check on the forecast. And Colette, a gorgeous day. What a change from yesterday.
Yes, Kelda, just an amazing day today, especially when you compare it to all the different types of weather conditions we had yesterday. Tomorrow won't be as mild, but we will have another dry day, but it won't hold, unfortunately, into the weekend. This deep trough in the jet stream and along that boundary here is where we have a nearly stationary front, so really some soaking rains and flooding risks along the Ohio River where it meets the Mississippi. That carries on for another few days, but we'll get some of the energy coming off this and it'll bring us some rain showers into Saturday. So got to enjoy this day tomorrow where it will be mild again. The daytime highs, yes, some 20s showing up on the thermometer in Oshawa and Toronto as well, and then a bunch of high teens looking really good. St. Catharines and even for the nation's capital, 19 degrees. So through the overnight period, just a few clouds, partly cloudy skies at the most. Now this is 7 a.m. and we may have kind of a bit of a variable sky just to start the day off, so a mix of sun and cloud, but I'll roll this into motion. We get clearing, we'll have a good deal of sunshine. The exception will be into southwestern Ontario's clouds will increase there in the afternoon hours. 4 p.m., the GTA should still be seeing a lot of blue sky, and then clouds increase as this next energy system makes its way through. So we have this into Saturday, yes, unfortunately for the weekend. However, it had been looking like we were going to have rain Saturday and Sunday, and what I would say is that it's looking more like now into Sunday this is going to push a bit further southward. So that would give us improving conditions, still probably a lot of cloud cover and maybe a few stray showers, but generally a drier day expected into Sunday with some clearing coming our way as the day wears on. Now in terms of the winds, of course, a special weather statement earlier because the winds were so gusty. As we roll through the overnight period, we'll find those winds easing up a little bit, and they'll be more comfortable around 20 kilometers an hour or so tomorrow morning, and even lighter than that by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon. Overnight temperatures, that temperature sliding to 1 to 2 degrees, I would say, overnight in Toronto, a little milder in southwestern Ontario. The high tomorrow, 10 to 11 degrees once we get into that sunshine. So a good looking Friday, pretty close to seasonal with that high temperature. Saturday, here comes that rain. Sunday, still a chance. Otherwise, mostly cloudy skies, and do be aware some colder air coming in on Tuesday.
Thanks so much, Colette. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night, everyone.